The Firm, a sneak peek.
What's going on in there?
The firm must be doing well because we got big shrimps at the Christmas party.
But is it?
Call me Mr. Wallace.
I'll call you Steve.
No, my name is Mr. Wallace.
¿Por qué?
Billable hours.
It's just too much money.
Welcome to Attorneys Are Human Too. I'm Steve Wallace.
And I'm Celena Muzic.
Oh boy, do we have a treat for you today. We are going to give you the inside look at the goings-on of a law firm. This is not Matlock. This is not LA Law. Maybe it's better Call Saul. At times it is. But you, the non-attorney, our loyal listeners, will get to see a sneak peek in what we can't erase from our minds. Some of the things that we've seen, the shenanigans, the craziness,
the madness,
the out-and-out battle royale that is known as a law firm. So I've had the pleasure or displeasure during my 25-year career. I've worked, for the most part, on my own. But I've worked at some large law firms. I've worked at 3 large law firms. And I worked at 2 mid-sized law firms. And then I've had my own firm for the bulk of it. So for basically out of the 25 years, probably 15 or 16 years, I've had my own firm. But I've gone to the dark side on a couple of occasions and gone back to work for the man.
Not the dark side.
Yes. And I'm not your father, by the way. So, Celena, I'm kind of curious. What led you to start working for a law firm?
Oh, well, that story is kind of...
And I think we can jump right into it because this is our Ask Attorney Anything question of the day. And it goes from my good friend, Billy Rubenstein from Syracuse, New York. He wanted to know what led us to this, he says, horrible profession. I say wonderful profession. And I will start with you.
Well, I wouldn't say horrible professional, but I would say at times stressful and challenging. But I think in the end, it's all about serving your community and helping people. A lot of times I feel like we have managed to help people for the better and teach them things that they may not have known. Not everybody knows the law. Not everyone understands it. And especially in real estate or bankruptcy, a lot of times, our bankruptcy clients, we actually always start with telling them, listen, we want to help you through this. We're going to walk you through it. We want you to rebuild your credit, restart your life, because we don't want you to return to us as another bankruptcy client.
We love you as repeat clients, but not repeat bankruptcy clients. And unfortunately, we've had those.
Yes, but we've also had the privilege to have prior bankruptcy clients come back to us and say, hey, listen, my life is so much better now, and I'm ready to buy a house, and I want you guys to help me. Right.
We had that lady who was a lunch lady in Miami, and then she called us, and she said she moved to Tennessee and bought her own home. So there's so many success stories. And one of the great things about at least bankruptcy is we do get a thank you, and we do really legitimately affect someone's life.
Yeah.
In the better.
Yeah. And I think there's times that we've actually talked amongst each other and said, is this the best thing that we can do for this person? And we have at times decided it's not the best thing for them, and we've against our own financial interest, and that's why we holistically approach everything. We truly look to help the clients, and so we're gonna have some stories later on where that is the polar opposite or the contrarian view when we've worked at certain law firms. Correct. And listen, some firms, some attorneys, they're all for the money. I like to think that we are more of the people, and because we come from such diverse background that we genuinely want you to succeed.
Right. I am the captain of the struggle bus, by the way.
Yeah.
I've been told that before.
I've heard. But the struggle bus, sometimes getting a person right over this hump could lead to like success.
I love the struggle, by the way.
But we've had people who've come to us with nothing and are now millionaires.
Oh yeah, we have.
And it's like, I feel like, wow, we changed your life.
Yeah, I agree. So let's hone in more on the question, though, that my friend Billy Rubenstein from Syracuse, New York, has asked. What led you to working for a law firm?
Well, Billy, like I said, I really wanted to serve the community and help. And I felt like that was my way of doing so.
Mm-hmm.
And, if I can provide any insight or any information on the law or any explanation,
mm-hmm.
and even if I don't actually have the answer, I know who does.
Right.
That's what led me, because I wanted to help people. I wanted to help people who didn't have a lot of money to hire these big, high-powered
mm-hmm.
attorneys. So that's kind of my way of giving back, at my own detriment and
mm-hmm.
stress and
mm-hmm.
driving everyone crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So, Billy, I'm trying to help.
So, and you'll share some of your insights in some other firms that you worked at other than
mm-hmm.
working with me. And you still have worked with me. Oh, we're almost 10 years together.
10 strong.
That's right.
Actually, we're 10.
Oh,
already.
10. Right,
Yeah.
right. Okay.
He already forgot.
Math is not my strong point. So, Billy, to answer your question. So I went to college my freshman year, and I was going to be a doctor. And
Dr. Steve.
Dr. Steve. And,
oh boy.
And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But when I'm the first one in my family to graduate college, obviously graduate law school. So there was a lot riding on the Wallace name for Stevie Wallace. So, so I went to college my freshman year, and the college I went to is notorious for weeding out people in pre-med. And I survived my first year. I did pretty well in biology and the math and all that stuff. And then sophomore year, we had to take biology. And the tests were like unbearable. Like I would get like 10s or 20s on the test.
Oh, wow.
And then I went to like the labs, and I was like totally incompetent. Like one lab, I broke all these test tubes and I turned my hand green. And so I had kind of a coming to Jesus moment, even though I'm Jewish, where I said, you know what, this is not for me. And I'm good at talking to people when I want to. I stress when I want to. And I have a very analytical mind, a very logical mind. And I mean, at the time, like my writing wasn't great. And so I decided to switch over to the pre-law classes, and to quote the great quote in Animal House, pre-law, pre-med, what's the difference? Which pretty much is the case. And so I started taking the legal studies classes in college, and I was doing well. And I had this one class where we had our midterm exam. And this was back in the old days where instead we didn't type our exams, we wrote in these blue books.
Okay.
And the blue book said on top of it, it was from the professor, and he said, "See me." I'm like, oh. And I went there, and he's like, "I wanted to meet you." He goes, "Because you wrote the best exam I've ever seen before."
Oh, wow.
And so I was like, maybe I'm good at this. Maybe I am a good writer. So I applied to law school, and it was no looking back from there. I was on law review. I was the top 10% of my law school class, and I really enjoyed law school. And then I realized that law school and the practice of law is totally different. And
two different things.
Right. And we've struggled with this a variety of occasions on, on this podcast and in my life. So my first summer, and this is why we do bankruptcy, I worked for a bankruptcy lawyer, and she had her own firm. And I actually would go on the road to clients because I was in Syracuse, and I drive to people's houses and trailers and all this stuff. And I would fill out the bankruptcy petition for them. I would like kind of like what you do with our clients.
Okay.
But you don't go anywhere. That's the beauty of it. And so I was like, I was pretty good at counseling the clients, listening to their needs. And so I was like, I kind of like this. I think I'd be really good at it. And then I did really well my first year. And so I started applying to these large law firms. And so I got a job as a second year clerk at the largest law firm, second largest law firm in Syracuse. And so we had a traditional, like what you see on like the movies and reading the books. We had a summer associate program where like they would take us out to eat. They would want us to like drink with them and all this stuff. They glamorized it. No, they did for real. But then doing the work was horrible. I mean, they were like, I need this motion for summary judgment by tomorrow. And I'm just like, I had to like stay there like till like 3 or 4 in the morning doing so. And I was like, ugh. And I just remember that. And I got a job offer there because I literally stayed out with the head of litigation because he was like, had an alcohol problem. Yeah. And I stayed out with him till like 3 in the morning. And he was like hugging me. And I was like, dude, chill. But I didn't say that in my mind. I was. Yeah. And so that's why I got the job offer because I like drank. But it was like, it's so ridiculous if you think about it. And so that's kind of the glamorous side of law firm. But I remember that I was counting the days down to be done with that clerkship. And I remember I went home and because I was making like really, really good money for like Syracuse. Mm-hmm. I was like the king. Like I would, I'd walk around like I had like more money in my pocket than I ever had in my life. And in Syracuse, that money,
that's a big deal.
It stretches. It stretches.
Absolutely.
And so like I was like the hero of the community because I mean, I grew up there, like all my friends and all my family were there. And Billy Rubenstein, you remember because you were there too. And so I remember my mom's like, oh, you're going to be such a high. And I was like, this was like a big deal, like in Syracuse that I was going to be a lawyer because my cousin was a judge in like our hometown of DeWitt, like the little town. And so it's like a really big deal for like me to go to law school. My parents were like so proud. And I just remember like after my second summer, I was like, oh, you're so excited you're going to work. I was like, Mom, I really hate this. It was like, I like dreaded it. It was just so horrible. Like just, I didn't enjoy. And like, I have to tell you to this day, like I talked to some of the lawyers there, like they're really, really nice people, but like, I just hated working at like a large law firm. So what did I decide to do? They made me an offer. So I worked there for a while. Like I worked there my first year and then I got recruited to go to work at a large law firm in Dallas, Texas.
I love Texas.
I mean, I love Dallas. Like, I love them Cowboys. How about them Cowboys? And so I went to work there, and I hated that place even more than the Syracuse room. I mean, it was dreadful. Like, I worked, like, I literally would pull all-nighters there working. Yeah. And the shit was, like, the work was so boring. Like, I was doing, like,
you're paper pushing.
No, I mean, I was doing public securities documents, like filing, taking companies public. We'd go to the printer and we'd drink like Johnny Walker, like whatever the one you never see is. Oh my God. It's like in there and we'd eat like, I love going to the printer because we'd get like to eat like Capitol Grill and like all those places. I'm like, I'd call my friends at home. Like, I'm eating Capitol Grill tonight again. They're like, again? And so it was just dreadful. Like I had this assistant and she was horrible. She couldn't write. I'd like edit things and she couldn't even type in English. Like, I don't know what language it was, but it's certainly, and then like, I would be in a rush and like, I wouldn't be able to like review it as carefully as I would like. And then they would get me like, Steve, you're so sloppy. I'm like, but I need a better assistant. You're giving me all this work. And the whole thing that I learned is in a large law firm, it's like, it's almost like the art of war. Mm-hmm. Okay. You have to choose your alliances wisely. Yes. And so I got stuck working for this guy that I just didn't get along with. And
which is horrendous in a law firm because you were like literally elbow to elbow all the time.
Right. But in a big firm, when you're a young associate, you have to, you're paired up to your, like that person's associate. Mm-hmm. And like, it wasn't a good fit. Let's just put it that way. And I just was miserable. Like, and I just was like, I've had enough of this. And I just left there and I didn't have a job. Uh-oh. And so I was like, I'm going to move to Florida. Okay. So I literally moved to Florida without a job, didn't have a bar in Florida.
Oh,
and so
wow.
I moved to Florida. I studied for the bar. I passed it. And I've kind of been here ever since. That was 2002. But I remember, like, I moved to Florida. I didn't have a job. And I had to live with my mom. I was like late 20s, living with my mom. It was like my mom and I and our dog. And like we lived in like the hood in Broward, not the hood. I was like, yeah, it was the hood.
Oh, wow.
And like my mom would sit out on the porch. She's like, look, that person's car got repoed.
Oh, no.
So like, yes, I am the king of that captain of the struggle because the struggle was real at the time.
Yeah.
So
Which also I think is what makes you a good attorney because you understand both sides of the coin.
That's right. I'm not like sometimes I appear like I'm not, but I understand and I appreciate the struggle. So then I got a job at a firm in Boca, and I love those guys, but they didn't pay a lot. Mm-hmm. And I was working, and my boss was a congressman. So I kind of got involved and all the deals. I was still in the corporate section, but all I was doing was real estate deals. And so that's kind of how I got indoctrinated in the real estate world. And so I liked that firm. It was good, except that firm, everybody, like basically everybody in South Florida's worked there. It's like a attorney mill. They go, but I mean, I actually left. I had met a friend of mine, Darren. You know Darren,
yes.
And we started our own firm. We were like in our late 20s, and we started our own firm. And so it's kind of, and we had like 2 clients, and we're just like, fuck it, let's just do it. And so like we did so well. Like
and some clients that I actually know,
right?
In hindsight, years later,
right? We still same clients that we have. Like sometimes, like Darren and I both have our own firms now, and we just kind of help each other out still and share clients. But that was interesting because that was the first time that I ever owned my own business, and you learn a lot with that. But it was very stressful. It was just stressful, and now I appreciate it. But at the time, it was stressful, like the eat what you kill mentality. But that has really helped me throughout the year. So a long-winded question to that answer, but that was like a little sneak peek on my journey, how I got into Florida.
Yeah. I think people don't understand that being an attorney, having your own firm, and it's not just the practice or understanding of law, but it's the practice of law. It's being an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And it's really knowing how to manage a business.
Yep.
So I think it's like separate things that all go hand in hand to make it successful.
Yeah, that I absolutely agree. And so you oftentimes, and I've met a lot of attorneys over the years because I've worked at a couple of different places and I'm involved with the Bar Association and everything of that nature. But what I've noticed is that there's really kind of 2 types of attorneys. There's not really, and the uber successful attorneys are both. So there's a finder and a grinder. So most of the attorneys that are in large law firms or medium-sized law firms are grinders. And especially the older ones that are still there, they're grinders, meaning that they're not social. They're not good at developing business. They for the most part, and I can't say that with everybody, is that they're technically sound. They're very good attorneys. But if that firm closed wherever they're at the next day and they had to go work for themselves, they would be in a lot of trouble.
Yes. Yeah. And it's funny because I worked for a really big firm in New York, a lot of ties in politics. And Dad was the finder. He was bringing the client in. He was a state assembly member, just very social. You met him. He was charming, great guy. I mean, I think he can sell a mop to anyone. Yep. And then son was a grinder. He worked at the firm. He was a grinder.
And so it's very rare that you're a finder and a grinder. I consider myself a finder and a grinder. That's why I'm able to be self-sufficient. And, the one thing that I'll tell you, and I say this to people arrogantly because it's something that I'm proud of and I worked very hard at, is that, in the past, the last firm that we worked at was experiencing some financial issues. And I remember they came up to me and some of the folks that were grinders were like, oh my God, what's going to happen? I said, and this is one of my favorite lines that I say, and I like to talk about myself in the third person. I said, it really doesn't matter because Steve Wallace is going to be fine wherever he goes because he has a book of business. And that's the key. To be successful as an attorney, you need a book of business. And I've been blessed with the book of business that I have, and I'll continue. And a lot of it I attribute to you because you're so good with the clients. You make them feel so well. And that's why we're a good team.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's important to have a book of business. But I think these large firms, a lot of times they miss the mark where they're only thinking about making immediate money right away.
That's true.
And they're not understanding that you want these clients to keep coming back to you and to trust you for other things aside from the one thing. And I think we are very good at that. Mm-hmm. We're good at taking a person who comes to us for a traffic ticket and making them a long-time client.
Yeah. I mean,
I think that's the key.
Right. We want to be the sole point when they have a legal issue.
Absolutely.
And I heard Judge Janine had a nice compliment for us earlier before filming that, can you share that with us, Judge Janine, what you said about us?
That you guys have come so far, even when you were doing it on your own, podcasting. You don't give yourself enough credit. You started it in the pandemic and you've built your audience and you've done such a great job with what you have. And then Judge Janine came into your life and just made you perfect.
That is true. I can't deny that. We'll save that for a ruling later. So, I mean, most importantly, we pride ourselves on not bleeding every single penny out of a matter. Because again, we look at it, you're a client for life.
Absolutely.
And I think that, and that's one of the reasons why I personally have not been that successful in large law firms, because ideologically, I don't necessarily see their business practice. Like, I'm going to tell you, to be successful at a large law firm, and I've been partners at large law firms, but I just, my thought, the whole goal is that you bill as much as possible at the highest rate possible, not necessarily providing value to the clients. The goal is, like, I remember one time when I was a senior associate, I got a call from the managing partner because one time I had to bill like 250 hours in a month. I literally was pulling like 4 or 5 all-nighters. He's like, Stevie, good job, 250 billable hours. And I'm like, how much of that do I get? Not an iota, but I didn't say that. I was thinking that. But so it's counterintuitive because the way I look at it is, when we're lawyers, we're problem solvers. People come to us because they want to have a better future. Mm-hmm. So I, unfortunately, at times, we're so efficient that if we were following that billable hour mentality, we would be cutting ourselves short financially.
Yeah, because we move too fast.
Right, because we're too good at what we do. What can I tell you? But that's where the old school white shoe law firm mentality. There are certain like Fortune 100 companies that have to use the monstrosity law firms because they just have two behemoths against each other. But for the standard small business, medium-sized business, high net worth individual, that old law firm model is out the window. And especially with AI, that's going to eliminate a lot of what the junior associates do.
Absolutely.
I think that model is dead. And so, we are lean, mean fighting machines, and we're very efficient at what we do.
Yeah. And I'm kind of a math person too. I've said, listen, if we charge X amount and it's so high, this person's not going to come back. Where I know I can get this person not just to come back, but to then send us everyone else that they know.
Our clients are our biggest advocates and our biggest marketing cost, and it's free. If we do a good job for them, they actually pay us to do the marketing for them.
Correct. We've had clients who are still sending us. And these are clients that I met 10 years when we first started and have sent us friends, family.
Oh, yeah.
If you sit here and do the math, we've actually made more than if we would have just charged that client the way a big firm would have charged them.
That's correct. And again, there's nothing wrong with big firms. It's just not for us because we're human too.
Yeah, too human.
Right.
Too human. But that's what I like. Mm-hmm. And I think that we've actually been beyond successful being humble. Mm-hmm. And I think our clients really appreciate that. And the ones that listen to this podcast will agree and are still sending us business because of that.
That's what I tell my kids. Be humble.
Okay, Kendrick Lamar.
Be arrogant. Be arrogant when it suits you. Be tough when it improves your image. And we talked about the certain image as attorneys and law firm professionals that we portray ourselves. So a couple other things I'll tell you, and this is just some tidbits. So the other thing that we see a lot, at least when I was working at bigger, actually it's not even big firms, it's mid-sized firms also, is we see a lot of extracurricular shenanigans, so to speak.
Unnecessary drama.
Yeah. And so, that's the other reason why, again, like, it's just not for us, is the fact that it's hard enough to do the work. It's hard enough to keep the clients happy, to talk the clients off the ledge. And so there's just so much that goes into, and it's not, and I want to be clear, because I've heard the old school attorneys pull me in their office and said, "Well, Stevie, it's those darn women." It has nothing to do with gender. It has to do with lack of personal skills. Like, I've told law firms till I'm blue in the face, you have a culture problem.
Yeah, but they don't understand the culture,
right?
The word culture, and what you mean by that.
And I'm talking about hashtag culture. That's what I'm talking about. And so, it's a situation. It's very simple. Here's my message to the large firms and the mid-sized. You want to make people, you want to feel that people that are your subordinates or or somebody that is even your equal, that they feel valued, that their opinion is valued. And oftentimes, with some people are motivated purely by money.
Yes.
And so I'll just tell you honestly, like, I have a threshold of putting up with bullshit, and I can look past all the bullshit if I'm getting highly compensated.
Yeah.
But the best combination, the best value for success is you make somebody feel appreciated and you compensate them well. Plus, you listen to their ideas, whether you agree with them or you don't agree with them, you make them feel valued.
Yeah. So back to that firm that I worked for in New York, I will say they were very good at listening to the whole staff. Even if you were the cleaning lady. Okay. Why? Because it translated to all types of client. And they were very good at keeping their staff happy. And it actually was a personal issue. And I've never, this attorney, owner of this firm, would walk in and go to everyone's desk and make sure that they were okay.
That's great.
And I can say everyone that worked there when I was there is still there.
And you talk about this with such passion, and it must have been a great place.
Yes, I only left because I moved to Florida.
Right.
And still,
his loss, my gain.
Yeah, well, yeah, but still, I get a call every once in a while. Hey, how are you? I want to make sure how you're doing, how the kids are doing. It's just something that he has taken so personal, and I'm telling you, I've never seen a firm. It's very rare, besides us, where there's no turnover.
Yeah.
People retire, and that's when they hire someone.
Yeah.
Everyone there loves to work there, is still there.
That's great.
And you can say nothing wrong about the owner of this firm. I think the staff will lynch you.
Yeah. No, that is, I've always been, and again, most of the time when I've worked there, I've been an attorney, but I always treat my team, because I don't look at it like somebody's like my subordinate. They're my team.
Yeah.
And you've met a couple of other team members on the podcast too, under aliases, but
well, because your team is your biggest advocate.
Right.
And what these big firms don't understand is your team is gonna bring you a lot of business.
That's right. And also the other thing that's important, and not every law firm that I've worked at has done this, and I do this, is that if somebody brings you, and as long as it's compliant under your Florida bar or other bar association rules, you can provide incentives for your staff that are not your non-attorney staff to bring in business. Because again, you're sharing the wealth with your staff. It's not like you have to pay all these marketing costs for SEO and all of the other things that are in social media marketing and all this other stuff when your staff and your clients are your biggest advocates.
Correct. And, you give raises appropriately because, again, your staff, they want you to be successful because it translates to their success.
Absolutely.
And not just that, they're bringing clients because they trust you as an attorney. And so they feel like, why am I going to send this off to another attorney? I don't know how they're going to handle this case where I know where I work. They're going to take this client and treat him like a person.
Yep. So as we start winding down this episode, one of the things that's always interesting as you compare firms that you've worked at over the years is the holiday party. Can you share some insight on some of the holiday parties?
Well, which one? I mean,
I'll just share. I want to hear some.
I'm going to start New York. The holiday parties were very, very, very wild.
Okay, do tell.
Wild, like they had car service.
Okay.
Always ready to send staff home.
Okay.
And I remember
probably together, I would assume.
I remember we had to carry out. Me and a few of the girls had to carry one of the attorneys out, and I mean he's pretty big guy.
Okay.
It was like 5 of us had to carry him and throw him in the car and take him home. But they get wild. But it was wild but professional. Never anything that I felt uncomfortable. But I have been in firms where it gets downright inappropriate. So
uncomfortable.
I make sure that I draw a line and I stay, and then after a certain time I'm like, I know what's gonna happen now, so it's time to go.
Right. And I think we may have been in a place like that, and we walk out there at the same time like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Openly asking.
Yeah.
Just, it's a lot of inappropriateness. I think it
And you know what I'll tell you?
line.
The food was really bad at those Christmas parties too. I judge the success of a firm on this is how I am, because I'm not a drinker.
Yeah.
I judge the success of a firm on the type of food that they serve at the holiday parties.
Yeah.
So the big joke is, and this is a pretty widely known joke amongst attorneys, is that the success of the firm is based on the quality of food at the Christmas party.
Yeah.
And usually, like, if we're having a bad month, I go, no more shrimp at the Christmas party.
Yeah.
That's my joke.
Yeah. Well, in New York, we had excellent food. Food was excellent. Another place, it was awful. Entertainment, though, was, we were in another place where the entertainment was good. I like group activities and things like that.
I was the MC of the...
Yes. So they can get fun. I mean, you just have to, know boundaries and know.
I knew the firm was in trouble when we didn't even have a Christmas party out of the office. We had it in the conference room. I'm like, oh, shit.
Oh, you're talking about that firm.
And you know that instead of getting a Christmas bonus, I got a Ninja. I was like, this fucking sucks. No. I'm sorry. Not even a Ninja, a crockpot.
Well,
I'm like, I like showed my friend. I'm like, look what I got. She's like, you didn't get a bonus? I go, no, I got a fucking crockpot.
Well, I will say, okay, now I know which firm you're talking about. I mean, the food was good in the conference room. What are you talking about? I made some food.
Oh, I had yours. That was good. But other thing else.
Yeah, the food was good. The staff could cook.
No, the staff could cook, but I like to go out of the conference room.
Well, I didn't mind it so much.
I minded it because I got a crock pot instead of a bonus, so I was pretty upset about that.
Well,
I get salty. Now that's a situation, as we talked about earlier.
Yeah,
that there's a certain level when I put up with bullshit. If I'm highly compensated, I put up with the bullshit. But if it affects,
I think for a while,
if it affects, if it affects my money, my level of bullshit goes down.
Yeah. Well, you have to think, your staff, their pocket is hurting too, right?
Right.
So, I get it. And your staff is, probably doing less well than you. So you want to make sure that they're well compensated. But I also think.
Right. But I also made sure that every time, whether the staff got, I made sure my team got presence
you did.
on holidays.
You did. You've always made sure that your team was taken care of.
That's right.
And even on legal matters.
Right, of course.
We've needed help.
That's part of the legal assist. That's part of working where you get free legal service.
Yeah.
I did somebody's divorce and annulment, not you, but
sometimes that's what it comes down to.
Sometimes it takes it.
Yeah.
Oh my Lord.
But that's why, it's the Wallace law is successful.
Right. So I worked at a large firm in Florida before I started Wallace Law. And they're like, oh, well, we don't have enough money to have a client holiday party, because the client holiday party was like, we rented out a museum in Fort Lauderdale. Mm-hmm. It was freaking awesome.
Yeah.
They're like, but we're going to have the staff party. And then my supervisor specifically told me that the head of the section, the real estate section, is like, you don't want to go to the staff party. I'm just like, that's telling me alone that I need to go. I need to see what was going on. I mean, it was nuts.
No way.
Like they were like messing around. And the food was actually really good too. I'm like, hey, at least I'm.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Good food.
I love the good food.
But I could only take it for something because like the one thing that I learned, like I made sure of, and is like, I know back when I would, and I'm not like, I don't have any drinking problem or anything, but back when I used to drink, and now I'd much rather eat than drink the calories.
Yeah.
I know if I would drink, I would start saying stupid things because that's just my nature. So I made it a point whenever we would, like the partners and stuff, when I was a younger lawyer would take me out, I wouldn't drink because I know I'd say something stupid. I'd tell them to go fuck themselves or something.
Yeah. That's not good.
Right.
That's not good. Well, I've always been the eater.
Right. So that was good. So.
But I get it. It's a change. It's a change. The holiday party in this New York firm was like a couple days long.
Holy
we had
cow.
The client party, then we had the internal party. Then this owner of this firm, because they were so successful, would have us go to a Broadway show.
Oh, wow.
All together. Book it all out.
Do you remember that one year we were there? We had actually section holiday parties too. We had that thing at that fancy hotel in West Palm.
Oh yeah.
And then we had it the next year. We had it in a conference room.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know.
Anyway.
I don't know. Anyway, the food was good though.
Yeah. True. So let's wind it down. Let's close it out with a question for each other.
Sure.
Random question.
Okay. What if you could do any other practice of law?
Mm-hmm.
What would you do? That's not real estate or bankruptcy. What would you have liked to focus on?
Well, I mean, I can just tell you, like, I like money. I'm a capitalist. And if you're really successful in personal injury, you're very affluent. So, I mean, I enjoy the areas of law that we do, and we do very well for ourselves. But just thinking of it purely from a capitalistic standpoint, personal injury, if you're successful, if you're on the high end of it, because there's a lot of low-level personal injury lawyers, and we sure know some of those, right?
Oh, yeah.
But if you're very, very successful, like Morgan, for example, that dude is like prints his own money, you know?
Yeah. They could do better commercials, though. Not feeling them. But we like you because we don't want you to sue us, you know? Yeah, no,
okay. Okay, that's for me. So my question is, if you could be in any other profession other than the practice of law, what would it be and why?
Oh, wow. Okay. I think I would have probably pursued forensic science.
Interesting.
I actually started going to school for forensic science, criminal forensic science. And maybe I would have stayed in that.
You'd have been CSI, like a real life CSI?
Kind of, yeah.
And what made you decide not to pursue it?
I felt like I could probably do better helping people.
Okay. Versus being locked in a lab somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And very interesting.
But I thought forensic science, maybe FBI, CIA, that's where I would have gone.
Okay. So thank you again for listening to us. And we hope that our journey, our personal journey, showing us that attorneys are human too, peeking behind the ivory towers of large law firms has been helpful. And our stories that share with us, we're being vulnerable.
and I hope that if you're a young attorney or someone who has just graduated law school and is considering opening your own firm, reach out to us.
Yeah.
We're more than happy to give you some advice and maybe even have you on the podcast and explain to you, like, you know, the do's and don'ts.
Yep, absolutely. And we are in a future episode going to be providing career advice to attorneys. Judge Janine, before we go, what's your ruling?
I am so impressed with both of you. I think both of you are just such a dynamic team, and I love these candid conversations and episodes with just the two of you because it just showcases what a good partnership both of you have. So that's my ruling on this episode, and I think sky's the limit for the dynamic duo.
Woohoo!
Flattery will get you everywhere. On that note, we out.
Thank you for listening to Attorneys Are Human Too. Remember, give us a 5-star review and follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and wherever you get your digital content.